show.
Welcome to episode 84 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. The Toronto Maple Leafs are still a certified wagon. They are riding a 15-game point streak. They have not lost in regulation since November 11th. Mitch Marner is riding a 23-game point streak, the third longest of this century. The goaltending has been incredible. Everything is going right for the Toronto Maple Leafs right now, so we are going to give you our thoughts and opinions on everything that has gone down with this team over the last week. We are going to discuss whether this team is different. Are they built for the playoffs?
Ooh.
Then we're going to get into a little bit of a discussion about which team has the better group of top four forwards, the Leafs or the Oilers. And then we're also going to talk about Alexander Ovechkin getting to 800 goals. So I promise you are going to want to stay tuned until the very end of this episode. But before we get into all that, it is time to officially welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man?
Anthony Bruno is always doing very well because I'm recording a podcast. Sitting across from you, sort of. That's the world we live in right now, across screen-wise.
Yeah, that works.
It's okay. Yeah, sure. However we want to phrase it. Episode 84 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast. Shout out goes to who I think is one of the most underrated players in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mikhail Grabovski, who was a great two-way center. He put up points, spent a few years with the Buds. And in Toronto Maple Leafs fashion, we bought him out so we could sign David Clarkson. Sad day in Leafland when Grabo left, but Grabo's hilarious. He's done a lot of interviews since he left Toronto. Talked about his time in Toronto. He enjoyed playing in Toronto. So Grabo, great player. And Grabo's more like, here I am, the jersey guy again. Grabo's a cool jersey. You see someone rocking a Grabowski jersey, I'm okay with it. Semi-random, but not overly. It's ironic, but not too ironic. I like it.
Such an underrated player. I remember when I was in high school, that was kind of the era with, Grabowski and Phil Kessel. And I remember telling one of my friends, I'm like, am I crazy? But night in and night out, it looks like Grabowski is the best player on the Leafs.
He was good.
And it sounded, it sounds insane to say, but I think there was a period of time where it was like, oh my God, he might be the Leafs' best player.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously, when you look at career stats and Phil Kessel, blows him out of the water. But Grabowski, like you said, Lepore, one of the most underrated players on the Leafs in the last 20 years.
Remember that line? It was him, Kuhlman, and Clark MacArthur. It's a nice line.
That was a solid line, man.
What was that stat? There was one year where I think all three got 60 points, or there's a certain amount of goals.
Yeah, I think they all hit 60 points.
Yeah, good line.
You're right.
Man. Nice.
Anyway, let's jump right in to what's going on with this version of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Little better than that team.
Lepore, honestly, man, this might be the best Leafs team I've ever seen.
There it is.
It's hilarious because every year, I think we keep saying the same thing. Like, oh my God, this is the best Leafs team of our lifetime.
Yeah,
we said it with the team that lost 2 years ago in the first round of the Montreal Canadiens. You know what? To be fair, I don't think we said it last season because they had kind of regressed a little bit defensively. But this year, man, I mean, you go across the board. Offensively now, they're really turning it on. They lead the NHL in 5-on-5 save percentage, so their goaltending's been incredible. They rank second in the league in goals against per game. So from a defense and goaltending standpoint, this team has definitely taken a step up. So the question I ask you, Lepore, is this team different? Is this team now built for the Stanley Cup playoffs?
It's even hard for you to ask that question without a smile on your face, because the nerves just kick in of talking about it out loud. But I said earlier in this season, I think this team is a lot more mature. I think they've progressed in their style of play. And when you're winning, no one talks about the bad things. And something else I said on this show previously is that what's not being given enough attention to the Leafs is what they've been through as a team. So for this team to have been riding a 4-string goalie for a few games, have 20 million in defensemen out, calling up guys, like trying to figure out a lineup and still be winning, Like, I'm not gonna like again, you're very careful. I don't want to call this Toronto Maple Leafs team resilient because in today's world that would be a crazy hot take, and we need to see a lot more. But like, what else do you want from them at this point? Like, I know we know what we all want. We want to see playoff success, but say as far as the regular season goes, I mean, they're scoring goals, they're not getting scored on, they have goaltending, they're overcoming problems. I'm hearing other fan bases compare, or other fan bases complain about their situations with regard to injuries. Oh, we lost so and so, whatever. It's nothing compared to the Leafs. Nothing. This Leafs team could be fighting for a playoff spot based on what they've dealt with so far. And I'm not going to say I'd still be impressed, but I'd be like, okay, yeah, based on everything they've been through, that's kind of where they should be. And they're near the top of the league. There's nothing to complain about right now. Guys are stepping up. Guys are doing their job. I think that's the biggest thing. This team looks tight, very tight. And it's kind of funny in the world of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think most teams kind of set their like measuring stick when they play really good teams. But in Leafland, we do it when we play the really bad teams because we're all nervous about a fucking disaster that's going to occur at the arena. And I remember seeing the line. What were the Leafs last night? Like minus 550 or
yeah,
like
I think it closed at minus 550. That's just absurd.
Yeah, fuck me. I'm like, oh, there it is. I mean, there's the L, and like you're kind of waiting for that, kind of expecting that, and the Ducks had that chance right away that Samsonov made this the great save on, but then it was just like step aside. Like, step aside. People often use the word like buzzsaw to describe a team that's on fire. This team's a buzzsaw right now. Like, you're watching games. I hate to say, you're not even nervous. Like, they always have the puck and the way they're flowing. And I'm sure people are throwing a lot of shit right now in the comments based on how optimistic I am. But there's no negativity right now. There's no negativity, really. Again, goaltending, defensive play, they're scoring goals. They're getting balanced scoring across their top players. Like, actually, even myself, I had to step back for a second because I think Tavares had a streak. He got like 1 point in 5 games. And I was like, oh, yeah, JT's been kind of quiet lately. But then you put it in perspective. You're like, yeah, but during those games, like, how many points did Nylander get? How many points did Marner get? Like, they all just can't be scoring on fire all the time. I mean, then it would be even more. We'd be the Ducks 15-0 then, right? But this team does feel different. And I think the main reason is because they look tight everywhere. And guys stepping up, guys moving into positions and progressing into positions that they're comfortable with. And this team has balance. So I'm optimistic, Bruno. I'm very optimistic, as people can tell.
I love one thing that you said, Lepore.
Thanks.
Well, man. I love a lot of what you said, but one thing in particular. What else do you want from this team? That is the key right there. Every year, Leaf fans say the same thing. I don't care. Show me in the playoffs. The Leafs haters say the exact same thing. But if you cannot sit there and acknowledge that this team has taken a step forward in terms of its defensive play and its goaltending, then you're just not paying attention, or you're just an idiot, honestly, or you're just a hater. So you're one of those three things, because you go down the board. This is such a complete team right now. You said it. Especially with all of the injuries that they have overcome, with nearly $20 million out on the blue line, with the injuries in net. Murray was injured. Samsonov was injured. Up front, losing depth pieces. Obviously, they haven't suffered any injuries to the elite players. I mean, if you want to put Morgan Rielly in that tier, you can. I would, because I still think Morgan Rielly is a very important part of this hockey team, even though the Leafs appear to be better defensively without him and appear to be pretty darn good without him.
Yeah, here come the takes. But
I'm not going to go as far to say as now they got to get rid of Morgan Rielly, because I think he's an awesome player. But what else do you want from this team? Because last year, I'll bring up the stats right now. Defensively, they weren't that good. Okay, they were 19th in the NHL in goals against per game. And like I've said 700 times on this podcast, finished 27th in 5-on-5 save percentage. Right now, they are second in the NHL in goals against per game. Who thought coming into this season, with the question marks in net, with the talent that they had on the blue line, we all thought they had a good blue line. I didn't think they had an elite blue line, and I don't necessarily think their blue line is elite, but right now, as a team, defensively, they're second in the league in goals against per game. That's significant. We have not seen that from this team. Not in the Matthews and Marner era, not over the last 10 to 15 years. This is rarefied air right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think that needs to be celebrated. And sure, people are still going to say the same shit. And I don't care. They're still soft. They're not built for the playoffs. They're going to fold like a cheap suit in the first round. I mean, the only reason you're saying those things is because those things happened in the past. But you have to also take into account what's happening in the present and the changes that this team has made and the adjustments that they have made to like I've said on, the last 3 shows, to quote unquote, play the right way, especially when it comes down to the playoffs. So I am going to sit here and straight up celebrate what's going on right now, because I have never seen this team play this well defensively. And as you said, Lepore, be this tight knit as a unit, just as a well-oiled machine where game in and game out, everyone's doing their jobs. They're not breaking down defensively. They're playing the system to perfection. There's really nothing to complain about right now with this team.
Yeah, I think compared to previous seasons, the way I'll put it is that, and I think all Leafs fans would agree, there was always something we were really nervous about. I mean, the early days with Babs, it was the D. The D was shit. And we knew that going in. And deep down, we knew that like a real run wasn't very likely because how weak our D was. And then there were improvements. And then we go to last year where we didn't have a fucking goalie. So that thing in the back of our mind of like, can Jack bounce back and he get back to where he was at the start of the season? So we don't have that right now anyway. I mean, things are just cruising along. But I'll ask you this, Bruno. So I kind of reminded myself that Jack Campbell was very, very good at the start of last season before, the wheels came off and he fell apart. I'm not going to say should we be nervous, because it's kind of like wrong to expect someone just a nosedive in terms of their abilities. But with the way the goalies have played and how it's kind of mirrors how Jack was at the start of the season last year, should we have any nerves with regard to it holding up? I think we would all agree that it's not going to stay where it's at. Like Ilya Samsonov is not going to finish the season with like a 9.33 save percentage or whatever he's got. But should we hold some nerves for a semi nosedive at least?
That's a totally fair question, Lepore, because we saw it last season. Jack Campbell was playing like an all-star. He made the NHL All-Star game last year because he was fantastic the first 2 months of the season. And it's totally fair to ask. And I think that we are going to see some regression, because as it stands right now, the Leafs lead the NHL in 5-on-5 save percentage. Ilya Samsonov leads the league in save percentage.
Crazy.
At 939, and Matt Murray is 4th in the league. So both Samsonov and Murray are in the top 4 in the NHL in save percentage. So I don't think that is going to continue. But the reason why I am more optimistic this season, number one, I just think the Leafs as a team are better defensively. And number two, both goalies are playing well. So if one guy starts to fall off a little bit, you at least have a little bit of faith that the other guy is going to keep it going. Whereas last season, Peter Mrazek was a disaster. So once Jack Campbell fell off, you basically had 2 Peter Mrazeks on your team who were both providing sub 900 goaltending on a nightly basis. And despite that, the Leafs still finished with 115 points. So it just goes to show that if they can get goaltending throughout the season, now it doesn't have to be the best in the league, but if they can hover in the top 10 throughout the rest of the season, this team's going to be right there for the President's Trophy, and hopefully they'll be able to win the division, but it doesn't look like it at this point.
Yeah, it's like, again, like things you're afraid to say out loud, but with these goalies and how good they've been, I'll say it, like I'm being a natural Leaf fan in the way that I'm really, really worried about things adjusting. And you have, to be fair, if we're being perfectly honest, we've seen Murray lately be human. That goal against Tampa in overtime wasn't the greatest. He said afterwards he wanted it back. There were there's that one weird one against Calgary. I don't know if it went off to him, but it seemed like he had the one that they had to review. They went behind him and trickled him was kind of a soft one. He wasn't
sharp in that game either.
Yeah, so you're going to see that again based on how their numbers don't make sense comparing to like historical NHL goaltending. But I think you make the right point that you say that it's because we have 2. It's a little comforting.
Yeah, because nothing could be as bad as last season. Now, hopefully both of these goalies don't nosedive at the exact same time. I mean, anything's in play because this is the Toronto Maple Leafs we're talking about. But
Yeah.
if you're listening out there, you're watching this show, I would be a lot more confident this season in the goaltending now that there's two guys as opposed to last season. 'Tis the season for clean balls. Fa la 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 la. Our friends at Manscaped are helping you clear your driveway for safe travels this holiday season. From stocking stuffers to perfect items for a gift exchange, Manscaped's products are at the top of every wish list. Help all the men in your life go from eggnog to nice hog this December by going to manscaped.com and using our promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping. Lepore, there's no better time of year than right now to pick up some Manscaped products.
Yeah, first things first, let's give a thanks to Manscaped for making this an R-rated podcast all of a sudden. But Manscaped products are the best, whether you're looking for something small to put in someone's stocking or a main gift like a lawnmower freaking 4.0. Head over to Manscaped, promo code GFP20, 20% off, free shipping. You hate that look on people's faces when they open a present and they're kind of disappointed or like, oh, this is not something I need, or this is going to go in the corner. I promise you, you will not get that reaction when people see the Manscaped logo.
These products are the best, and I say it on every podcast, but seriously, they never disappoint. Whether you want the Lawnmower 4.0, some of their new products like the Body Buffer, when you're washing yourself in the shower, the Shears 2.0, their boxers, the body wash and shampoo. This company just does not miss. So once again, go to manscaped.com and use our promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping. That is GFP20 at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. Do the right thing and pick up some Manscaped products. The holidays are almost here, and there is plenty of t-shirt cheer thanks to True Classic Tees. Fellas, we have the perfect gift for your wish list. True Classic Tees are a gift for you and a great present for any guy in your life. True Classic is on a mission to maximize men's confidence by making them look good. Trust me when I say this is a gift the ladies will appreciate too. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men look great in their tees, and now you can save big while you do so. Get 25% off True Classic using our promo code GFP, or head down to the description of this video and use our exclusive link, trueclassictees.com/GFP. And the discount doesn't stop there. You'll save even more during their site-wide sale. Lepore, I love these t-shirts.
Bruno, I am one of those people who it doesn't matter how many push-ups I do, how much I do on the bench press, I don't gain any size. We're not all fortunate like Mr. Anthony Bruno to be born an absolute Adonis. So some of us need help. But since trying on these True Classic tees, I fear no more because I look great. I'm not going to go as far as say I look jacked because now we're going overboard because I'm really skinny. But I got to say it does help a little bit. So gentlemen, take all the help you can get. Go to trueclassictees.com. Grab a few of these things. Even if you want to buy a small amount of them just to try them out, you will not be disappointed. They will be your new go-to t-shirt.
These t-shirts are the best. They fit so well, like nice and snug in the upper body, on the arms and the shoulders. But then as you kind of go down, it's not tight around your midsection. So it doesn't matter which body type you have, all right? Whether it's a dad bod, whether you have a more athletic physique, whether you're more on the skinny side, you can find a t-shirt here that is going to work for you. And that's why I love this company. So get 25% off at trueclassictees.com/GFP. Free shipping is included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at trueclassictees.com using the promo code GFP. Fellas, are you looking for a new watch that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg on? Well, say hello to our friends at Vincero. If you aren't familiar with Vincero yet, they make exceptionally crafted and stylish watches at affordable prices. Other premium handcrafted watches don't fit the everyday person's budget. You can finally own a high quality and lasting timepiece without going broke. So if you're looking for the perfect holiday gift to help elevate your style or someone you love, get 20% off and free shipping with our promo code GFP or use the exclusive link in the description of this video, vincerocollective.com/GFP. Lepore, these watches are so sick.
Bruno, like, look at this watch. Guys, like, look at this watch. You can wear this with your jeans and a t-shirt. You can wear this watch with your tuxedo. And that's what I love about the Vincero products. You go through them, you can dress them up, you can dress them down. They're versatile. And as Bruno said, they don't break the bank. So if you want something that's high quality for not a high-end price, hit up Vincero, everyone.
These watches are just so nice. The quality is off the charts. The look is amazing. This is the Altitude. Lepore is rocking the Kairos. Just phenomenal watches. Absolutely love these from Vincero. So don't wait, or it's going to be too late. Get 20% off and free shipping with our exclusive link, vincerocollective.com/GFP. Just go to the website and use the promo code GFP for 20% off and free shipping. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. If you like to bet on sports, you absolutely need Betstamp, the best app to help you become a more profitable sports bettor. So go download Betstamp immediately and use our referral code GFP. The main reason you need it is for line shopping. Betstamp allows you to line shop for the most valuable odds on each wager and therefore maximize your potential profit as a bettor. So if you're betting on the Toronto Maple Leafs, you can't just go to one sports book. You got to look across the board to see who's offering you the most value, whether that's on the money line or the puck line. And also the importance of having multiple sports books, because if you have multiple sports books, you're able to access the best prices, and Betstamp, as I alluded to, streamlines this process for users. Lepore, Betstamp is such a good tool for sports bettors.
Guys, as Bruno and I have said on the pod, there's been a lot of unpredictability in the National Hockey League this year. Good teams are losing, bad teams are winning. So it's hard. It is hard to bet. It is hard to be a successful bettor. So why not take advantage of the help you can, line shop with Betstamp.
And one other thing that Betstamp does that's fantastic is that it allows you to connect with all the major sports books.
Right.
And it allows you to link your accounts so your wagers from all those sports books automatically sync right into the app. So download the app and use our referral code GFP. I will have it linked down in the description. Betstamp is the way to go if you're a sports bettor and you actually want to make some money betting on sports. How about Mitch Marner?
How about Mitch Marner?
And this 23-game point streak. So he is the third longest point streak of this century. This is insane. So the only guys he's got to catch now over the last 25 years, and this goes back, to the year 2000, a little bit pre-2000, but the only guys he needs to catch now are Sidney Crosby, who had a 25-game point streak in 2010, 2011, and Patrick Kane, who had a 26-game point streak in 2015, 2016. I'm not even going to bring up Gretzky and his 51-game point streak. But I mean, this is rarefied air right now. This is the second time I've said the word rarefied on this podcast. But how long do you think this point streak is going to go? Because this is insane what we're watching right now.
Yeah, it is crazy. I think the way it goes, if I remember correctly, obviously, like there's the Wayno, there's Lemieux, and then Sundin actually had one in Quebec of 30. So to me, like I've kind of looked at that one as like the record, because like the Gretzky and Lemieux ones are just ridiculous. So to me, like 30 is kind of like the bar of like something actually crazy historical. But how long is it going to go? What'd you say? You said Crosby and Kane were 25 and 28?
25 and 26. So he's 2 away from Crosby and then 3 games away from Patty Kane.
I'm going to say, throwing shots in the dark here. I'm going to say it goes 28 games.
Wow, I love it.
I'm going to say it goes 28. Yeah, he keeps going. He keeps rolling. 28. And now because I said that out loud, next game he'll be held pointless. I actually made a joke to my buddy too about the Anaheim thing, how the Leafs are minus 500. I'm like, can you bet against a player getting a point? Because Marner's going to lose his streak against Anaheim. Watch. But yeah, I'll put it at 28. Nice round number. And I'll have it as the best post lockout streak we've seen.
You know what, Lepore? Let's roll with that. I love the number 28. Let's do
Bruno,
that. It
come
just
on.
sounds right, feels right. I think you're right on the money there. Let's go with 28. So just looking at the schedule right now, he's going to have to go another 5 games. So the Leafs play the Rangers, Capitals, Lightning, Flyers, and St. Louis to get to 28 games. There's a couple tough goaltending matchups in there with Shesterkin and Vasilevsky, but he can get there. Yeah. And then you know what, Lepore? The game right after that is against Arizona to get to 29 straight.
There you go.
So that's
let's be fair too. Like on a streak like this, and for it to keep going, a lot of luck's involved. Like people looking at, who are they playing? It doesn't matter. You can lose 6-1 and he gets a second assist on a garbage goal at the end of the game. It's just, you hope things go Mitch's way. And it's amazing, man, because I think it's tough for teams, or I think we could all say that we know it's tough for teams to keep going and keep motivated over the course of an entire season. It's 82 long games. So in order to have a strong, complete season, you need things to keep you going. Motivations, like stuff in the locker room, talking points. And I get the feeling that, like, I'll put it this way. It's not a coincidence that the Leafs are on their tear, about to break the record for most consecutive games with a point. And Marner is also on his point streak. That's not a coincidence. It's because the team's pumped about this. The team wants Mitch to fucking keep going, and they're excited. And there's a buzz every night. I think of last night's game. Tuesday night, playing the worst team in the league. The building under normal circumstances would be kind of lull and quiet. Okay, the Leafs get out with a win, whatever. But no, everyone's going like, Mitch has got to get a point. Like there's still something like to pump everyone up. And that goes for the players, the fans, the coaching staff. And it's exciting. Anything that keeps you excited, more often than not, keeps you motivated. So I think it's awesome. It's a great story for the season, and like more on what we touched on before with regard to positivity for the Leafs.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because credit to this team for getting the fans providing the fans something to be excited about. Because you go back to last season, it was the same thing. I'm not watching this team until the playoffs. But then Matthews is scoring at a 60-goal pace.
Right.
And that became the story where everyone was tuning in to see how many goals is Matthews going to score. He hit 50. Then he breaks the Leafs record, passing Rick Vaive. And it's like, oh my God, he might hit 60. And now we're seeing the same thing with Mitch Marner. He breaks the Leafs point streak. Then he hits 20. Now he's at 23, and he's going for Crosby and Patrick Kane. Like, it's getting the fans something to get excited about. And at the same time, they're going for 16 straight games with a point as a team. So credit to the Leafs, man. They always got you on the edge of your seat, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, it's almost like it's done on purpose or something. Like, give Leafs fans something to be excited about, give Leafs haters something to shit on. But
never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, and speaking of, and we'll move on, but we talked about how Lemieux and Gretzky are just like on another stratosphere with regard to that record. What's funny, and then what doesn't get talked about enough, is that Lemieux was actually closing in on Gretzky's 51, and he got injured. So he couldn't play, and then if you don't play, you're done. So that's how his streak ended. And Gretzky, the year he hit 51 in a row, and it started from game 1 of the season, he was actually playing hurt. He was playing hurt for, I think, the last 4 or 5 games of that streak, but he's kept going because he wanted to keep the streak alive. And then finally, when he didn't do it, he took like 4 or 5 games off after that. So it's like, what could have been? Could we be talking about like an entire season of an NHL player where they get a point? Maybe. Like, it's not that crazy. And then, you know what's funny? Then what would the debate be? Does it go into the next season? Like, who's got the record? Does it go into the playoffs? Kind of funny.
That's insane to think about. Actually, a similar thing happened to Taylor Hall the year that he won MVP. He had a crazy point streak where I think he went 13 straight, missed a game, and then went another 13 straight or something like that. But it doesn't count.
Right.
Because he missed a game. But yeah, I didn't know that Lemieux actually got injured that season when he was chasing Gretzky. But
yeah, I'm such a big Gretzky guy. I don't like saying that out loud, but I mean,
no, it's good to know, man. I like
credit.
Lepore bringing some nice history onto the podcast.
There you go.
Enlightening all of us.
I'm here for something. I gotta provide something, right?
Lepore, before we move on to our next topic, there's one thing I wanted to quickly talk about. And it's just insane. I tweeted this out last night. So the Leafs are on pace for a franchise record 120 points. They're riding a 15-game point streak as a team. Marner's riding the third longest point streak of this century. Samsonov and Murray are both top 4 in the league in save percentage. The Leafs are second in the league in goals against per game, but yet they still sit second in the Atlantic Division. They are on pace for one of the greatest regular seasons in NHL history, but yet they are still second in the Atlantic Division because the Boston Bruins are on pace for the greatest regular season in NHL history. Like, are they going to slow down at some point, this Boston Bruins team? Like, I don't know, man. This is insane. This would only happen to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, what I've kept telling myself, and maybe what I've been trying to convince myself about Boston, is the record at home. Like, they're not going to go like, I don't know, 37-2-2 at home or something like that. So at some point, I mean, we've all been watching this sport for a long time. There has to be somewhat of a skid. I mean, the Leafs started slowly. I mean, that doesn't mean they won't have another skid at some point. But I just think, like, based on what we've seen all watching hockey for years and years and years, this team's going to have a stretch where maybe they have some bad luck. And that's not me saying I think 100% the Leafs are going to pass them or whatever. I just think, remove the Leafs. I just think this team is not going to have the greatest season in the history of the league.
Yeah, right now they are 15-0-1 at home.
Crazy.
Like, that's just absurd. And on pace for 138 points this season.
Yeah, bananas. That's bananas.
Would you
want that? Would you want that for the Leafs?
Yeah, I would.
Really? Just to add to it, just to add to the
greatest regular season in league history. Why not?
Yeah, I guess.
But then all the pressure, like, imagine the Bruins actually do have the best regular season in NHL history, and then the pressure that's going to be on them.
Yeah. Well, there's that stat, right? And they bring it up every year. Like, teams that win the President's Trophy typically don't win the cup. And like, I've never really thought too much of that. Like, people are like, oh, it means nothing. No, it means you're a really good team. It just, you also need luck in the playoffs, whatever. I mean, you can win 3 rounds or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the ideal situation for me would be the Leafs top record in the East, home ice advantage throughout the first 3 rounds, and then give the President's Trophy to like Colorado on the other side or something, just so the Leafs don't get that attention, but still have the home ice advantage, at least until they get to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I would love for this team to get home ice advantage throughout, at least, like you said, the Eastern Conference playoffs. But yeah, as of right now, they're going to need this Bruins team to slow down because this is absolutely ridiculous. The Leafs are having their greatest season ever, and Boston is also having its greatest season ever, which also happens to be the greatest regular season in league history. Again, we're only 30 games in here. I'm not getting too far ahead of myself when, you know, I'm bringing up all these facts, but we'll see how this plays out over the next 50 games.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about the Bruins? I'll tell you. So I have a few friends who are very, very big Bruins fans, like lifelong hardcore Bruins fans. One guy even like goes to multiple games a year. He's always there for the playoffs. And not that they were negative about this team going into the season, but at the start of this year, and even going back to say last year, they were kind of like, yeah, we're good, but whatever. Like, we still have guys and we'll still make the playoffs, but kind of like the show's over. And it's funny because they felt like that, but I refused to believe it. And we talked, I think it was our preview show, we did the over-unders, and the Bruins came up and I said, show me. Like, a lot of teams, they do poorly. Oh, they have prospects, they're developing. Oh, are they going to do well this year? Well, you got to show me. The Bruins, it's the opposite. I'm not going to believe they're bad or they're on their way down until I see it. They're just too good of an organization. They have too much of an identity. That building is a fucking war zone. Too good, man. Like, what an organization that is. And what's funny, about the Bruins, getting in like perspective on the team. I'm not going to say like they weren't supposed to win that cup in 2011, but they were an underdog. They were a heavy underdog against that Vancouver team.
Yeah, that Canucks team was loaded.
Yeah, and Vancouver won. They were up 2-0 in the series, and they were up 3-2 in the series, and then they had home ice for game 7. So there's puck luck in hockey. The puck bounces your way or it doesn't. Boston very well could have not won that Stanley Cup. It's kind of funny, like, how much differently would we view the Bruins if that team had never gotten it done? And that would have been what, three final losses had they not won that one. So it's interesting how like one little thing can change your entire perspective, because we would look at Bergeron, Marchand, all those guys very, very differently if they didn't have a ring.
Yeah, you said it, man. And it's the same thing with the Leafs, right? Like, imagine the Leafs had won one of these game sevens.
Yeah.
Or even
exactly.
the game 5 against Columbus, for that matter. Like, the narrative is completely different. All of a sudden, they know how to win in the playoffs because they've won a round. And who knows how far they get if they get past the first round in one of those seasons. The same thing with the Bruins. If they don't win that Stanley Cup, who knows how the narrative changes. And I was laughing in the offseason because, I'd put out content saying that the Bruins were still good. People, Senators fans were telling me, you're an idiot. How could you say the Bruins are better than the Senators or better than the Panthers? I'm like, are any of you guys paying attention? Have they lost anyone on this team? They get Krejci back. Bergeron comes back. The only thing they were dealing with was the injury to Brad Marchand and the injury to Charlie McAvoy. And those guys both returned ahead of schedule. And now this team looks like an absolute wagon. So congratulations for the people who actually, the smart people who thought that the Bruins were still a good hockey team and were probably going to make the playoffs, and not the people who thought they were going to miss the playoffs by 15 points.
You know what I love about it? And it's weird for me to love something about how good the Bruins are doing. It reaffirms that youth is overrated in this league. Everyone sees these young up and coming teams. Oh, look how fast they are. Look how much they can score. It doesn't fucking matter. Play the Bruins in the playoffs. You're done.
You said it, man.
I don't care how skilled you are. You're fucking done. And we'll say it again, make it about the Leafs. The reason I just think this team has a better chance than previous is because these guys are 1 year older. They're battle tested. Facing a game 7. And let's say it, the game 7 against Tampa was a great game. It could have went either way. They did show up. They've been there before. You always hear in soccer, they say, oh, this player has experience. At the end of the day, it comes down to, he's been in a stadium of 80,000 away fans for a big game. So this won't intimidate him like a player. It's his first time. So I think it's such an underrated thing in hockey and in sports in general. And I love what the Bruins are doing in the way that's slapping everybody in the face when it comes to how important it is to be young and fast and young and skilled. I love it.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. Even going back to last year, we'll move on in a second, but look at Tampa, right? Everyone's like, oh, they've slowed down. There's no way they're going to make 3 cup finals in a row. This team's older now. No. And then they're right back in the Stanley Cup final.
You know what's
won the cup again.
You know what take I hate, maybe the take I hate the most in all of hockey? When people look at a team and their success, going into the playoffs this year, people are going to be saying about Tampa, they're going to be saying, well, they went to the playoffs, or they went to the final the last 3 seasons. They've played a lot of hockey. It's no. Teams have won back to back. Teams have made deep runs over and over again. And the point I always make is people always say that about the team that wins, or even the team that say lost in the final. It's oh, they lost in the final last year, so going into the playoffs this year, they played a lot of hockey. It's going to catch up. So do you ever say that about a team that made the conference final? What, they played 5 or 6 fewer games?
Yeah, exactly.
They played
a handful fewer games, and
they maybe even played more games based on how their series went. Give me a break, guys. I hate that take, and again, it proves what Tampa's doing. And I in no way will be doubting the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they've been too good the last 3 years, and they're just due to run out of gas. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I can't stand some of those awful takes, and I'm sure there's going to be more awful takes as we head into the playoffs this season. Awful takes are the best. Just makes it more entertaining, honestly. All right, man. We got to talk about Leafs versus Oilers, because a few days ago, the Tim and Friends Twitter account tweeted out something that pissed off a lot of people, specifically Oilers fans. And I will go to the tweet right now. They said, is there a better group of 4 forwards in the NHL right now? If so, who? And it is a picture of Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and John Tavares. And this created a huge stir on Twitter. The Oilers retweeted that tweet and said McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Nugent Hopkins have 31 more points this season than the Leafs core 4. Mm-hmm. So, Lepore, I have a lot of thoughts about this.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Who has the better group of top 4 forwards? Is it the Leafs or the Oilers?
Okay, Bruno, this is how I'm going to line this up. Okay, I'm going to pull up my phone here. and I'm going to look at the NHL standings. We are going to go to the overall standings. The Toronto Maple Leafs sit third in the NHL. They've played 30 games. They are 19-5-6 with 44 points. The Edmonton Oilers sit at 14th best in the NHL. 30 games played, 17-13, 34 points in 30 games. Okay. So
and before you continue, Lepore, I should also mention the Leafs on pace for 120 points in the Atlantic. The Oilers on pace for 93 points in the Pacific.
Okay. So I think it's right now. I won't even get too deep into it. Right now, it would be hard for Oilers fans to look Leafs fans in this face and say, we're better right now. Like, that's tough to do based on what I just spat out and based on your point about the divisions. Okay. So what I will say to that regarding the 4v4 conversation is this. Right now, the Leafs have a far better record. They're having a far better season. Okay. Who has better goaltending?
The Leafs.
The Leafs. Who has better D?
The Leafs.
The Leafs. Okay. So then the only response I could accept from Oilers fans is that your D and your goaltending is so shit. That's why this even makes this a conversation. Because at the end of the day, if the Leafs had if you're either admitting the Leafs have all three that are better, or the Oilers fan has to say, well, the reason why we're so far behind in the standings is because our D and our goaltending suck. And I don't think Oilers fans are going to do that. Right. So to me, like that just sums it up. And the way I would look at it, and here come the comments, because I'm going to start comparing players. Okay, top of the ladder, Connor McDavid. Best fucking player in the universe. It's not even close. He scored another amazing goal last night like it was nothing. My wife happened to be walking by when I was watching the highlights, and she was like, okay, he just does what he wants. I'm like, yes, he just does what he wants. So McDavid, top of the ladder. Austin Matthews, number one for the Leafs. I'm not going to argue. I would never argue that Matthews is better than McDavid, but as far as close as it's possible, he's on the same planet as him. Okay. Like, I don't think a team gets way better or way worse with one or the other. I think McDavid is better. And I think you're better with McDavid, but it's not like, oh my God, the Oilers suck now, or they're much worse now because they have Matthews instead of McDavid.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Go to that second one. We'll put Marner versus Draisaitl. I know people are going to flip out at this one. To me, take your pick. I think they're both very different. They're both super elite players. They're very good at different things. Like, I love Draisaitl. And to me, even if you would say put Draisaitl better, I think even the most hardcore of Oilers fans has to say, well, it's close, guys. It's close. I mean, we're talking about Marner's point streak, back-to-back first-team All-Star. Come on, the Draisaitl's not way better. Like, yeah, maybe he's better, but he's not.
He's a better goal scorer. I'll say that
100%.
But just as a total complete player, both sides of the puck, I mean, it's close. If you want to make the case that Marner's better than Draisaitl, the case is certainly there, honestly, based on what you just said.
Okay, and so then now I'll ask Oilers fans right now, for the same amount of money, you can trade the Nuge and Hyman for Nylander and Tavares.
You're not a heartbeat.
You're not a hockey fan if you pick the two players on the Oilers. Like, you're not watching. So that's how I would see it. And again, I'm not completely against the idea of someone arguing in favor of the Oilers' top four being better. This is how I see it, because someone could say, we have McDavid, and I'd be like, yeah, you got a point there. Like, you have the best player on the planet. So if that's your take, I'm okay with it. And Tim and Freds knew what they were doing. I find it amazing that the actual Oilers Twitter jumped in on this, because then it gets it like really deep and really hardcore, like not just some fan, which is what you expected. But to me, again, like I said, based on where the teams are in the standings and based on how their teams are built, Oilers fans, if you're screaming at me saying your top four is better, if you're putting that in the comments, your next paragraph better be, it's because our D and goaltending is so shit. That's why we're so low in the standings. And I don't expect you to do that.
So here's what I'll say about this, Lepore, and I love a lot of the points you made. Let's look at the numbers, okay? Because the Edmonton Oilers do have a point, talking about how many more points their group of four forwards has compared to the Leafs. So just looking at the numbers, the Leafs have their top four, Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, 135 points in 120 games, 58 goals and 77 assists. The Oilers' top four of McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Nugent-Hopkins, 177 points in 119 games. Okay. So that's 42 more points. They also have more goals and more assists. But here's where the big discrepancy is. And obviously you nailed it. Like, we all know McDavid is the best player on planet Earth. Draisaitl's awesome. And again, I'm not going to fault anyone for saying Draisaitl is better than Marner. Draisaitl's won a Hart Trophy. He's one of the top goal scorers in the world. He's a great player. But I also think there is a case to say that Marner, as a complete player, playmaker, everything, the point streak, the 2 first-team All-Stars, as you mentioned, that you could make the case that he is better than Leon Draisaitl. Anyway, when you look at some of these other stats here, Lepore, the Leafs actually have more 5-on-5 points,
of course,
than the Oilers' top four. The Leafs have 71 5-on-5 points with their top four, whereas the Oilers have 69. So the big discrepancy, this is what I was getting at, is the power play. The Oilers' power play is absurd. And I said this, I don't know if it was the last podcast or the podcast before. I said, if I had to take one power play in the NHL, like $1 million on the line, you need a goal, I'm taking the Edmonton Oilers power play, because it's absurd, and it's because of 2 guys. And don't give me this BS. It's because of Zach Hyman or Nugent Hopkins or whoever's running the point on the power play. It's because of those 2 guys, and they control everything, and they are absurd on the power play. Okay. So looking at the power play numbers, the Oilers, 77 power play points among their top 4 forwards, the Leafs 53. So the Oilers' top 4 has 25 more power play points than the Leafs. But as I said, the Leafs' top 4 have more 5-on-5 points than the Oilers. So again, when you're looking at points, goals, assists, sure, they have more. And most of that is because of McDavid and Draisaitl. But then, as you mentioned, Lepore, you have to look at the team success as well and the context of both of these teams. And the Leafs are clearly a better team. As I said, they're on pace for 120 points in the toughest division in the NHL, where the Edmonton Oilers are on pace for 93 points in the worst division in the NHL. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. But you're insane. You are insane if you think that the Oilers' top 4 is better than this Leafs' top 4, even with McDavid and Draisaitl. And it's because of Tavares and Nylander.
100%.
And you are taking them all day long, no doubt about it, over Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And it's not even close. And again, whether you want to look at stats, and again, you could say, oh, Zach Hyman, he just had a hat trick last night. Like, Zach Hyman's having a really good season. But watch the games as well. Now I'm turning into the watch the games guy when I have all the stats and I'm watching. Anyway, this is making me go crazy. But there's no way in hell you're taking Hyman and Nugent-Hopkins over Tavares and Nylander. There's just no way in hell.
Well, again, like, be a hockey fan. The Edmonton Oilers remove Zach Hyman from their lineup and add John Tavares.
Or add William Nylander.
But I'm saying,
imagine Nylander on McDavid's wing.
Right. But I'm saying, even the way of, like, the type of style Hyman is, you put Tavares there, like, that makes them way better. Just that single thing. And then say replace Nuge with Nylander. And again, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, good player. He's a nice player. But no, I think that's it. It's sums it all up. Debate all day long. McDavid is the best player from here to Mars. Debate over Draisaitl and Marner, and I'm sure people are already saying in the comments that it's no debate. Draisaitl's 10 times the player, but I think it's those 2v2 at the bottom that's where the gap is. That's really and truly where the gap is. So,
however, I will say this: with a healthy Evander Kane, I think the conversation becomes a little bit closer
100%.
Because I think Evander Kane is a hell of a player. And he's really one of their top 4 forwards. And whether you want to take out Nuge or Hyman, take your pick. I think that makes the conversation a little bit closer. But yeah, I mean, right now, the way that they're playing individually, team success, you're taking the Leafs top 4 all day long. And honestly, I think only Oilers fans at this point would be taking the Oilers top 4. All right, Lepore, before we close out this podcast, we got to talk about Alexander Ovechkin becoming the 3rd player in NHL history. And Lepore is extremely rattled because, as you can see behind him, Wayne Gretzky is his boy, and he knows that Ovechkin is creeping up. And one day he is going to pass Wayne Gretzky. Yes, he is. All right. So anyway, he became the third player in NHL history to score 800 goals. He's 1 goal behind Gordie Howe. He's now 94 goals away from Wayne Gretzky. Lepore, man, it's incredible. One of the coolest stats I saw, the Capitals tweeted out like this whole stat page about how quick Ovechkin got to each goal, how many power play goals, empty netters, road goals, home goals, all that stuff. He actually got from 700 to 800 quicker than he got from 0 to 100.
That's
like this
crazy.
Guy is absurd, man. Year in and year out. He's in his age 37 season right now. Okay, I'll just run over a couple of other things. He's a 9-time Rocket Richard winner, an 11-time 50-goal scorer, 3 Hart trophies. He won the Rocket Richard in his age 32, 33, and 34 season. He scored 50 goals last year in his age 36 season. I mean, we're watching who I think is the greatest goal scorer of all time. Lepore might want to slap me in the face.
No.
But right now, based on his current pace, Lepore, by the end of next season, if he stays on the pace that he's on right now, just in terms of goals per game, by the end of next year, Ovechkin will have 881 goals.
If he finishes this season at the pace he's at, and then continues that into next year. And
continues that pace in the next season, just based on his career pace, he will hit 881 by the end of next season. So
okay,
I throw it over to you, man. Is he the best goal scorer of all time? And is he going to pass Wayne Gretzky or what?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Bruno, I'm the biggest Wayne Gretzky fan in the world. And if the record is broken, it will be. I mean, yeah, like I don't want it to happen. Like some people kind of dance around the question. No, I do not want it to happen. I like Wayne having pretty well every record of significance that the league has. But Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer that has ever lived. Wayne Gretzky, anyone who watched him play, even if you watch highlights, his style, he was a pass first guy. Like Wayno was the playmaker for guys, right? What gave Gretzky so many goals was that he was just more talented than everybody else. And he played in the right era. And that's not me saying like, oh, the goalies suck. Like I hate that argument. Not that I want to get into that whole thing, but the whole thing people say about, oh, the goalies were shit. And oh my God, they didn't play defense back then. And the scores were like 10-8. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, Wayne Gretzky had crappy leather skates. He had leather gloves. He had a heavy wooden stick. His nutrition, the nutrition knowledge back then was zero. Preseason training, like all that stuff. The development Gretzky would have had as a 7-year-old, like coming up through the ranks and what he would have been in the NHL. So I hate that argument, but erase all that. For Alex Ovechkin to do what he's doing in this era and be as consistent as he's been is psycho. Like what he's doing is like sports wise, like historically crazy. Back to my point before about youth. Go fuck yourself. It's not about being young. You said he won 30 at 32, 33, and 34. He won the Rocket. He was the best goal scorer in the league. So the 22-year-olds can shove it, right? So I don't want to see him break that record. But things, even if he doesn't, like I'll still sit here and say, yeah, Ovi's the best goal scorer of all time for the numbers he's, even if he ends at like 860 something, there's injuries or who knows. I'll still sit here and say that he's the best goal scorer of all time based on the era adjusted stuff. But one thing I will say is that, like, I think people, and again, like you mentioned his pace and how it trajects to like essentially smash the record. But I still lean back on, and this is not me hoping for something. I just like, there's always that possibility. All it takes is one. All it takes is one bad wrist injury where he misses like 50 games or something. And then he comes, let's say that would happen beginning of next year and he misses most of the season. Then he comes back. It's like, well, then what are your expectations of him then? Like even too, like he is human, like Father Time beats anyone. So even if he starts going at a pace of like, 20 a season, 25 a season, even 30, it's like, it gets harder. It's you're getting harder to get there. Based on how his season's going, I guess he'll need what? Like, it's tough because you keep telling yourself, well, he's not going to score 40 next year again, but he keeps doing it. So yeah, I'm gonna say it. Like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. It sucks, but people know.
It's happening, Lepore.
Yeah, people watching on
It
YouTube.
is.
People watching on YouTube like know I want to puke right now saying this, but he's the best goal scorer who's ever lived. And if I had to bet my house on whether or not Alex Ovechkin was going to get to 895 goals in his career, I would bet my house.
There it is. You heard it from the number one Wayne Gretzky fan on the planet.
Ugh.
Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer that ever lived. And I completely agree. I think barring injury, he's going to get to 895. I mean, the pace he's scoring at even this season is ridiculous. Every year, you just think he's going to slow down. There was one year where he did slow down and you thought, uh-oh, is this the decline of Alexander Ovechkin? And I'm looking at his stats page right now. It was 2016, 2017. He was coming off 3 50-goal seasons and then scored 33 in 82 games. This actually happened a little earlier in his career as well, where he had back-to-back 32 and 38-goal seasons, and then he had a 32-goal season. That was a lockout shortened year. But you thought back in 2016-17, he goes from 50 to 33, and you're like, this could be the decline. Then he rips off a 49-goal season, a 51-goal season, a 48-goal season. Then he scores 24 in 45, essentially another 40 to 50 goal pace, scores 50 last year in his age 36 season. And now he's got 20 goals in 31 games, essentially scoring at a 50 goal pace again. This guy just defies logic, defies time. We are watching one of the greatest hockey players that ever lived, and just enjoy it. Honestly, enjoy the next 2 to 3 seasons, however long it takes him. I don't think he's going to get there by the end of next season. I think this is probably going to take at least another 2 seasons after this season to get there. But man, it's absolutely incredible to watch.
Yeah. I'll ask you this, and not to get into all this thing. So, I mean, in the 05-06 season, the OV versus Sid thing began, and people debated. Sid got his cup. So then it was like, okay, I think Sid's the man. And then Sid got 2 more. And then Ovechkin finally got his cup. And even, Sid fans were like, yeah, it's okay if Ovechkin gets 1. And I think it's safe to say that, like, between the two of them, Sid's got the belt. Like, I think you put everyone on the truth serum, everyone would say, yeah, like Crosby's the man. If Ovechkin breaks that record, like, I almost think this isn't getting enough attention as it deserves. Like, I think if Crosby, and I'll say it, there's a lot of bias. I find that sometimes in Canada with some of these stats, we're kind of biased with Canadians versus Europeans. Like, I've always said, ask people who's the best goalie ever. Oh, Patrick Waugh, Marty Brodeur. No, Dominic Hasek is the best goalie we've ever seen. It's because he's Czech. We just don't kind of see it that way. So I often wonder if the whole Sid thing, there's some Canadian bias there.
Yeah, the Canadian golden boy scores the golden goal. He was the chosen one from the age of 15, 16.
Yeah,
that like whole narrative.
Even if you put them on par, it's kind of like we said about the Leafs. Like, what more do you want? If Ovechkin breaks the record for most goals ever in an NHL career, like, what more do you want, really? Oh, he should have won more cups. It's like, well, that's team stuff. And as an individual, that's psychotic, especially in this era. So, interesting talking point. One thing I will say, Ovi, listening out there, easy on the empty netters. You can go on the ice at the end of the game for the empty netter, but don't be cherry picking on the red line for your second empty netter when your team's up by 2. It's not the way to do it. Like I said, I already said you're the best goal scorer ever, but have some respect for the record as well. I'll say that.
53 empty net goals for Alexander Ovechkin.
Yeah, and Gretzky had a lot too. And it's not about getting empty netters. It's about, like, don't be out there specifically to get empty netters, and then when you get one, to get another one. Like, come on, that's not how you do it. I think
Lepore, what would you do if he broke Gretzky's record scoring an empty net goal?
It doesn't count. Sorry, missed it. It doesn't count.
And I love the point you made, how it's not getting enough attention. So I was listening to ESPN radio last night driving home.
Oh, they didn't bring it up.
And they brought it up. So they were talking about, I couldn't believe it. They were having, like, a sort of lengthy conversation. And by lengthy, I mean like a 3-minute conversation about Ovechkin hitting 800. Then they're like, but this wasn't even the biggest story of the night. Meanwhile, Carlos Correa has signed a 12-year, $350 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man.
Amazing. There you go.
God
bless America.
Sports thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, God bless America.
All right, Lepore, anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this podcast?
I'll just finish up with one more thing. Funny how hockey gods come into play in this world. Yesterday was my lovely wife's birthday, and those who are avid listeners of the show know that her favorite player is Alexander Kerfoot.
Wow.
It's kind of interesting that my wife's favorite player is a Harvard boy whose father's a billionaire. How convenient. But last night was her birthday, and I think Leafs fans would all agree Kerfoot has not had a good season. He's been disappointing. So leave it to Kerf to give my wife a birthday present, 2 goals on her birthday. Thanks, buddy. You put a smile on her face.
What a birthday gift for your wife, Lepore. She must have been loving it. Happy birthday to your wife.
Thanks,
your lovely wife, Michael Lepore. But no, that's awesome. Kerfoot has been in the doghouse with Leafs Nation all year. Had not scored at 5-on-5 in the longest time.
100 years, yeah.
Scores 2 goals against the Anaheim Ducks. Love it, man. All right. That is going to do it for episode 84 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. If you're listening to the show and you really enjoyed it, please, you have no idea how much this will help us. Give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening. And if you're watching us on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and ring the bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content.
Do it.
So for Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.